Imagine this. It's 8:47 a.m. on a Tuesday morning in Manhattan. Sarah Martinez steps out of the elevator on the 32nd floor of her corporate headquarters. Coffee in hand, ready to present the marketing campaign she's been perfecting for months. 2 hours later, she walks back to that same elevator, her proposal dismissed with barely a glance, her ideas overlooked as if she were invisible. Sound familiar? We've all been there. That moment when rejection hits like a cold slap across the face, leaving us questioning our worth, our abilities, our very place in this world. But what if I told you that this moment of dismissal could become your greatest catalyst for transformation? What if rejection wasn't your enemy, but your most powerful teacher? Welcome to the ancient art of Stoic resilience, where every no becomes a stepping stone to something greater. Today, we're diving deep into 13 transformative lessons inspired by the wisdom of Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca, philosophers who understood that our response to adversity defines our character more than the adversity itself. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor, once wrote in his Meditations, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This isn't just beautiful poetry. It's a blueprint for turning rejection into rocket fuel for your personal growth. Think about every great success story you know. Behind each triumph lies a trail of rejections, dismissals, and closed doors. Steve Jobs was fired from Apple, the company he founded. Oprah was told she was unfit for television news. Stephen King's first novel was rejected 30 times. These weren't setbacks. They were setups for something extraordinary. In our hyper-connected, validation-seeking culture, rejection stings more than ever. We're constantly measuring our worth against others' approval, whether it's likes on social media, acceptance into prestigious programs, or recognition from colleagues. But the Stoics understood something profound. Our value isn't determined by external validation, but by our internal response to life's challenges. Over the next 13 sections, we'll explore how to transform every form of rejection, professional dismissal, romantic indifference, social exclusion, creative criticism, into opportunities for growth, wisdom, and unshakable inner strength. We're not talking about suppressing your emotions or pretending rejection doesn't hurt. We're talking about something far more powerful, using that pain as fuel for becoming the person you're meant to be. These aren't just theoretical concepts, they're battle-tested strategies that work in real-world situations. Whether you're facing rejection in the boardrooms of Chicago, the dating scene of Los Angeles, or the creative circles of Austin, these Stoic principles will serve as your compass through the storm. So buckle up, because we're about to embark on a journey that will fundamentally change how you view rejection, failure, and setback. By the end of this exploration, you'll see every closed door not as an ending, but as a redirection toward your true path. Ready to transform your relationship with rejection forever? 1. The Virtue of Dignified Withdrawal. It's 3:15 p.m. in a glass-walled conference room overlooking Madison Avenue. Sarah Chun, a marketing director at a prestigious Manhattan agency, sits at the polished table as her colleagues discuss the new campaign strategy. She raises her hand to contribute an idea she's been developing for weeks. The room falls silent for a moment. Then the conversation continues as if she never spoke. Her supervisor doesn't make eye contact. Her peers scroll through their phones. It's as if she's become invisible. This is the cold shoulder of indifference, that crushing moment when you realize you're being deliberately ignored. Your instinct might be to speak louder, try harder, or demand acknowledgement. But the Stoics offer a different path, the virtue of dignified withdrawal. Epictetus, who understood rejection intimately as a former slave, taught us, "You are not your body and hair, but your capacity for choosing well." When someone chooses to ignore you, you have a choice too. You can chase their attention like a dog begging for scraps, or you can choose something far more powerful. You can ignore them back. This isn't about being petty or vindictive. It's about making a profound statement of self-worth. When Sarah walked out of that conference room, she didn't slam the door or send passive-aggressive emails. Instead, she made a conscious decision. I am worth more than this treatment, and I will not diminish myself by begging for recognition. Think of it as holding up a mirror to their behavior. Your dignified silence reflects their indifference back to them, showing them exactly what they're doing without you having to say a word. You're demonstrating that you're unaffected by their dismissal, that your value doesn't fluctuate based on their acknowledgement. But here's the crucial part. How do you maintain this stance without drowning in bitterness? The answer lies in radical redirection of your energy. Instead of obsessing over why they're ignoring you, pour that mental energy into your own life, your goals, and your happiness. Sarah began arriving at work an hour early to work on her personal projects. She joined a professional development group that met Thursday evenings in Brooklyn. She started taking weekend photography classes in Central Park, something she'd always wanted to try. These weren't distractions from her rejection. They were investments in her growth. Marcus Aurelius reminds us in his Meditations, the best revenge is not to be like your enemy. When others choose indifference, you choose engagement or not with them, but with life itself. You dive into activities that enrich your spirit, reading books that challenge your thinking, learning skills that expand your capabilities, and spending time with people who actually value your presence. This approach builds what I call a fortress of self-respect. Every time you choose personal growth over pursuing validation, you add another stone to this fortress. Their indifference bounces off these walls like arrows off armor. You're not just surviving their rejection, you're thriving despite it. Consider the profound psychological shift this creates. When you stop chasing someone's attention, you stop giving them power over your emotional state. You reclaim your energy and invest it where it actually matters. This isn't just emotional maturity, it's a demonstration of inner strength that's genuinely attractive to others. Remember, your worth isn't determined by someone's inability to see your value. Sarah discovered this when her photography instructor, a renowned artist, invited her to assist with a gallery opening. The same creative vision her colleagues ignored was celebrated by someone who mattered. Sometimes the people who dismiss us are simply not our audience. The Stoic path isn't about becoming cold or indifferent yourself. It's about becoming selective with your emotional investments. You remain warm and open to those who reciprocate, while maintaining dignified boundaries with those who don't. This balance, engagement without desperation, warmth without neediness, represents true emotional sophistication. When you master this virtue of dignified withdrawal, something remarkable happens. You become magnetic to the right people while naturally repelling those who would waste your time. Your actions speak louder than their silence ever could. 2. Mastering the discipline of assent. The notification pings at 11:47 p.m. Marcus Rodriguez, a software developer in San Francisco's South of Market District, stares at his laptop screen in his cramped studio apartment. The email from the venture capital firm is brief and brutal. "Thank you for your presentation today. After careful consideration, we've decided not to move forward with your app concept. We wish you success in your future endeavors." 6 months of work. Countless sleepless nights coding. A pitch he'd rehearsed 100 times. All dismissed in 3 sentences. Marcus feels his chest tighten, his face flush with anger and humiliation. His finger hovers over the reply button, ready to type a heated response about how they don't understand innovation and miss the opportunity of a lifetime. But then he remembers something his philosophy professor once taught him about the Stoics. He takes a deep breath and closes the laptop. This is the moment where emotional mastery becomes your secret weapon. Rejection stings, there's no denying that. The temptation to react, to let your emotions explode like a shaken soda bottle, is overwhelming. But here's where ancient Stoic wisdom offers a revolutionary approach: the discipline of assent. Marcus Aurelius, writing in his tent on the Germanic frontier, understood this principle deeply. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. The discipline of assent means you get to choose which thoughts and emotions you accept as valid and which ones you examine more carefully. When rejection hits, your mind immediately starts generating stories. "I'm not good enough, they don't appreciate real talent, this always happens to me." But Epictetus taught us to pause and ask, is this thought helping me or harming me? Is it based on facts or fears? Marcus spent the next morning not crafting angry emails, but asking himself crucial questions. Why is this rejection bothering me so deeply? What am I really afraid of here? Often, it's not the rejection itself that wounds us, it's our own insecurities and limiting beliefs that the rejection triggers. The Stoic approach isn't about suppressing your feelings, that's psychological suicide. It's about not letting those feelings control your responses. Seneca wisely noted, "Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end." This rejection isn't a verdict on Marcus's worth, it's information about this particular opportunity with this particular group of investors. Here's where we get practical. You're facing rejection and the emotional tsunami is building. First, breathe. Not the shallow, panicked breathing of anxiety, but the deep, intentional breathing that creates space between stimulus and response. Count to 10. Count to 100 if you need to. Next, reflect without judgment. This moment isn't defining you, it's just that, a moment. Like a wave in the ocean, it will rise and fall, but the ocean remains. You remain. Stoicism teaches us to focus on our sphere of control, our actions, our responses, our character development. We cannot control how others treat us, but we have absolute sovereignty over how we respond. When Marcus finally did respond to the investors, his email was gracious and professional. "Thank you for your time and consideration. I appreciate the feedback and wish you success with your chosen investments." No bitterness. No defensiveness. Just class. This approach isn't passive, it's powerfully active. You're actively choosing emotional regulation over emotional reactivity. You're demonstrating that your self-worth isn't tied to others' approval. As Epictetus taught, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. The transformation this creates is profound. When you master calmness in the face of rejection, you're not just handling a tough situation, you're evolving. You're developing what psychologists call emotional intelligence and what Stoics call wisdom. Your inner peace becomes independent of external validation. Marcus discovered something remarkable over the following weeks. His calm response to rejection actually impressed several people in his network. One investor who heard about his professional handling of the situation reached out with interest in his next project. His composure under pressure became part of his reputation. People are magnetically drawn to those who remain steady in storms. When you don't crumble at the first sign of indifference or rejection, you demonstrate rare strength. You show that you're someone who can be trusted with bigger opportunities, greater responsibilities, and more significant relationships. The discipline of assent requires practice. Start small. When someone cuts you off in traffic, when a colleague takes credit for your idea, when a friend cancels plans last minute. Use these micro-rejections as training grounds for emotional mastery. Remember Marcus Aurelius's profound insight: confine yourself to the present. This rejection is happening now, but it doesn't define your future. Your response to it, however, absolutely will. 3. The Art of Philosophical Detachment. Elena Vasquez stands in the marble-floored lobby of Chicago City Hall, her architectural portfolio tucked under her arm, watching the elevator doors close on what she thought would be her breakthrough moment. 3 hours earlier, she had presented her innovative sustainable housing design to the City Planning Committee, a project that could revolutionize affordable housing in the Windy City. The committee's response was swift and brutal. Interesting concept, but not what we're looking for right now. As she walks out into the bitter February wind whipping off Lake Michigan, Elena feels the familiar weight of rejection settling on her shoulders. Her mind begins its relentless loop, replaying every word of the presentation, analyzing every facial expression of the committee members, wondering what she could have done differently. This mental prison is where most of us remain trapped after rejection, endlessly circling the same thoughts like a ship caught in a whirlpool. But the Stoics offer us a different path: the art of philosophical detachment. Seneca, who faced exile and political persecution, understood this principle intimately. Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end. Detachment doesn't mean becoming cold or indifferent. It means learning to navigate life's storms without letting them capsize your inner peace. Think of Elena as a skilled sailor encountering rough seas. She doesn't ignore the waves or pretend they don't exist. Instead, she uses their power to steer toward calmer waters. This is the essence of philosophical detachment: acknowledging rejection's impact without letting it anchor your thoughts in bitterness or self-doubt. The first step is conscious acknowledgement. Elena allows herself to feel the sting of disappointment for exactly 10 minutes in her car before driving home. She doesn't suppress the emotion or judge herself for feeling hurt. She simply observes it, like watching clouds pass across the sky. This is disappointment, she tells herself. It's temporary, and it doesn't define my worth as an architect. Marcus Aurelius taught us, the universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it. The committee's rejection is just one perspective, one moment in time. It's not the final word on Elena's talent or her project's value. This shift in perspective, from personal verdict to temporary setback, is the foundation of philosophical detachment. But detachment without action is just avoidance. Elena channels her energy into what Epictetus called preferred indifference, things that are generally good but don't determine our fundamental happiness. She enrolls in a weekend workshop on green building technologies at Northwestern University. She volunteers with Habitat for Humanity, applying her skills to help families in need. She joins a professional networking group that meets monthly in River North. These aren't distractions from her rejection. They're stepping stones to growth and new opportunities. Each experience adds layers to her expertise, expands her network, and most importantly, reminds her that her value as an architect extends far beyond one committee's opinion. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus, drawing from his experience as a slave who gained freedom through wisdom, taught, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Elena's reaction transforms her rejection from a dead end into a detour towards something potentially better. 3 months later, while volunteering at a community center construction project, Elena meets Dr. James Morrison, a professor of urban planning at the University of Chicago. Their conversation about sustainable design leads to an invitation to present her housing concept to his graduate seminar. The students are fascinated. One connects her with a nonprofit developer who's been searching for exactly her kind of innovative approach. This is the magic of philosophical detachment. It creates space for new possibilities to emerge. When we're not consumed by replaying past rejections, we become available for present opportunities. Our mental energy, freed from the prison of resentment, can focus on creative solutions and meaningful connections. Seneca wisely observed, "The willing, destiny guides them. The unwilling, destiny drags them." Elena chose to be willing to see her rejection as redirection rather than defeat. She cultivated what the Stoics called a circle of positivity, surrounding herself with people who shared her vision and values. But here's the crucial insight. Philosophical detachment isn't about forgetting the rejection or pretending it didn't matter. It's about extracting its lessons without being poisoned by its sting. Elena learned valuable things from that committee meeting about presentation skills, political considerations, and the importance of understanding her audience. These lessons made her stronger, not bitter. The art of philosophical detachment requires daily practice. Start by observing your thoughts about rejection without judgment. Notice when your mind begins its repetitive loops of analysis and gently redirect it toward constructive action. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this? How can I grow? Where can I redirect this energy? Remember, as Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Loss is nothing else but change, and change is nature's delight." Your rejection isn't a loss, it's a change. And change always carries the seeds of new possibilities. 4. Excellence through virtue. David Chun adjusts his tie one last time before walking into the corner office on the 45th floor of Boston's financial district. As a senior financial analyst at one of the city's most prestigious investment firms, he's been working toward this moment for 3 years, the promotion to vice president that would validate all his late nights, weekend research, and innovative market analysis strategies. 20 minutes later, David walks out with a forced smile and a handshake that feels like a consolation prize. The promotion went to someone with half his experience but twice the political connections. His supervisor's words echo in his mind. "You're doing great work, David, but we felt Jennifer was a better cultural fit for the leadership role." This is rejection's most insidious form, not outright dismissal, but being overlooked despite excellence. It's the kind of professional slight that can either crush your spirit or forge it into something unbreakable. The Stoics understood this crucible intimately, viewing such moments not as defeats but as tests of character. Epictetus, who rose from slavery to become one of history's most influential philosophers, taught us, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." David's reaction in this moment will define not just his career trajectory, but his character development. He has a choice. He can retreat into bitterness and mediocrity, or he can use this rejection as fuel for unprecedented growth. The Stoic response isn't to storm out or send passive-aggressive emails. It's to channel that burning energy into constructive action that demonstrates undeniable value. David doesn't waste time complaining about office politics or unfair treatment. Instead, he asks himself a crucial question. How can I become so excellent that my value becomes impossible to ignore? Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." David's blocked promotion isn't just an obstacle. It's a redirection towards something greater. Perhaps this firm isn't where his talents will be most valued. Perhaps this rejection is the universe's way of pushing him toward an opportunity that better aligns with his skills and ambitions. The next Monday morning, David arrives at work with a new project proposal, a comprehensive analysis of emerging markets in Southeast Asia that no one else in the firm has explored. He doesn't announce it or seek permission. He simply begins the work, staying 2 hours late each night to research, analyze, and compile data that showcases his analytical brilliance. Seneca, who understood the fickleness of political favor, advised, "Every man is in bondage to hope or fear." David refuses to be enslaved by either. He's not hoping for recognition or fearing further rejection. He's simply committed to excellence for its own sake because virtue, in this case, the virtue of diligent, innovative work, is its own reward. This approach creates a fascinating psychological shift. When you stop working for others' approval and start working for personal excellence, your entire relationship with rejection changes. You're no longer at the mercy of others' opinions because your self-worth isn't tied to their validation. You become what the Stoics called internally referenced, drawing your sense of value from your own standards rather than external recognition. 3 months later, David's Southeast Asia analysis catches the attention of a partner at a competing firm who's been watching his work through industry publications. The offer that comes is for a senior vice president position with a 40% salary increase and equity participation. What seemed like a career setback becomes the catalyst for a career breakthrough. But here's the deeper lesson. Even if that offer hadn't materialized, David would have been successful. Success, in the Stoic framework, isn't measured by external rewards but by the development of character through virtuous action. As Epictetus taught, wealth consists in not having great possessions, but in having few wants. David's wealth lay not in his salary or title, but in his commitment to excellence regardless of recognition. This principle applies beyond professional rejection. When a romantic interest dismisses you, you can become bitter and cynical, or you can use that energy to become more interesting, more accomplished, more emotionally mature. When a social group excludes you, you can waste energy seeking their approval, or you can develop new skills, new interests, new relationships that enrich your life immeasurably. The Stoic path transforms rejection from a verdict into a catalyst. Every no becomes an invitation to grow, to improve, to become more resilient. You're not trying to prove others wrong. You're proving to yourself what you're truly capable of achieving. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, the best revenge is not to be like your enemy. When others choose to overlook your value, you choose to increase it. When they choose politics over merit, you choose excellence over expedience. When they choose the easy path, you choose growth. This isn't about becoming a workaholic or losing yourself in achievement. It's about using rejection as a mirror that reflects back your potential for greatness. Every setback becomes a setup for something better. Every closed door a redirection toward your true calling. 5. The wisdom of strategic silence. Maria Santos stares at her phone screen in her West Hollywood apartment, the cursor blinking in the empty message field. For the third time this week, her editor at the Los Angeles Tribune has completely ignored her story pitch about the city's housing crisis, a piece she's been researching for months, complete with interviews, data analysis, and compelling human interest angles. Her fingers hover over the keyboard, ready to type another follow-up email, maybe with a slightly more urgent subject line, perhaps copying his supervisor. But something stops her. A voice in her head, channeling the wisdom of Marcus Aurelius. The best revenge is not to be like your enemy. Maria closes her phone and makes a different choice entirely. The choice of strategic silence. This isn't the silence of defeat or passive resignation. This is the profound power of conscious non-engagement, one of the most sophisticated tools in the Stoic arsenal. When someone consistently ignores you, your instinct screams to fix it, to bridge that gap, to make them acknowledge your worth. But here's where you flip the script entirely. You embrace the transformative power of strategic withdrawal. Seneca, who navigated the treacherous waters of Roman politics, understood this principle deeply. Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end. Sometimes the end we need isn't the resolution we're seeking, but the conclusion of our own desperate pursuit of validation from those who refuse to give it. Strategic silence operates on multiple levels. First, it's a boundary, a clear statement that your energy is too valuable to waste on one-sided conversations. When Maria stops sending follow-up emails, she's not being passive. She's being powerfully selective about where she invests her creative energy. She's saying, I respect myself too much to chase after someone who doesn't value what I offer. But this silence isn't cold or vindictive. It's what Epictetus would call preferred indifferent, neither inherently good nor bad, but a tool that can be used wisely or foolishly. Maria uses her silence as a reset button, creating space for clarity and strength to emerge. Instead of obsessing over her editor's indifference, she redirects that mental energy toward her craft. The next morning, Maria begins working on a freelance piece for a national magazine that's been courting investigative journalists. She uses the same housing crisis research, but expands it into a broader examination of urban inequality across major American cities. The piece that her editor ignored becomes the foundation for something far more significant. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Confine yourself to the present." Maria's strategic silence allows her to focus on present opportunities rather than past slights. She's not waiting for her editor to change his mind. She's creating new possibilities that don't depend on his approval. This approach sends a subtle but powerful message. In our hyper-connected world where instant responses are expected, strategic silence becomes intriguing, even magnetic. It demonstrates that you have a life full of interests and priorities beyond this one relationship. You're not easily shaken, not desperately seeking validation, not willing to compromise your dignity for attention. 3 weeks into her strategic silence, something interesting happens. Maria's editor sends her a text not about the housing story, but asking if she's available for a last-minute assignment covering a celebrity scandal. She responds professionally but doesn't mention the ignored pitches. She's moved beyond needing his validation for her worth as a journalist. But here's the deeper psychological transformation. Strategic silence changes you more than it changes them. When you stop chasing someone's attention, you stop giving them power over your emotional state. You reclaim your energy and invest it where it actually generates returns. This isn't just emotional maturity, it's emotional intelligence. Epictetus taught, "No one can hurt you without your permission." Every time you choose strategic silence over desperate pursuit, you're withdrawing that permission. You're saying that your peace of mind doesn't depend on others' acknowledgement, your self-worth isn't negotiable, and your time is too precious to waste on unreciprocated effort. The beauty of this approach lies in its authenticity. You're not playing games or trying to manipulate outcomes. You're simply aligning your actions with your values. If someone doesn't appreciate your contributions, you quietly redirect those contributions elsewhere. If they don't value your communication, you communicate with those who do. 6 months later, Maria's National Magazine piece wins a journalism award and leads to a book deal. Her former editor reaches out, suddenly interested in her housing crisis expertise. But Maria has moved beyond needing his validation. She responds graciously but briefly. She's too busy with opportunities that actually value her work. Strategic silence isn't about punishing others or making them regret their behavior. It's about respecting yourself enough to stop participating in relationships that diminish your worth. It's about understanding that your energy is finite and precious, deserving of investment in people and projects that offer genuine reciprocity. As Seneca wisely observed, true happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence upon the future. Strategic silence frees you from anxious dependence on others' responses, allowing you to enjoy the present moment and create a future based on your own choices rather than their approval. 6. The path of self-mastery. Antonio Morales stands outside the gleaming glass towers of Brickell Avenue in Miami, his restaurant concept proposal rejected for the 3rd time this month. The investor's words still ring in his ears. The market isn't ready for elevated Cuban fusion cuisine. Maybe something more traditional. His dream of revolutionizing Miami's culinary scene with his grandmother's recipes reimagined through modern techniques feels further away than ever. But as Antonio walks along the Miami River, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink, something shifts inside him. Instead of drowning his sorrows in self-pity or raging against the investor's lack of vision, he makes a decision that will transform not just his career, but his entire understanding of success. He chooses the path of self-mastery. Seneca, who faced exile and political persecution yet emerged stronger, taught us, every man is in bondage to hope or fear. Antonio refuses to be enslaved by either. He's not hoping desperately for investor approval, nor is he fearing future rejections. Instead, he's choosing something far more powerful, the commitment to prove his worth to the one person whose opinion truly matters, himself. This is where most people get it wrong. They think proving them wrong means creating a grand spectacle, a dramatic reveal that forces others to acknowledge their mistake. But the Stoic path of self-mastery is far more sophisticated. It's about internal transformation that naturally manifests as external excellence. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Antonio's investor rejections aren't obstacles to his culinary dreams. They're redirections toward a more authentic path of development. Instead of modifying his vision to please others, he doubles down on perfecting it for its own sake. The next morning, Antonio begins what he calls his silent revolution. He doesn't announce grand plans or post motivational quotes on social media. He simply starts cooking with an intensity and focus he's never experienced before. Every morning at 5 a.m., before his day job as a sous chef at a South Beach hotel, he experiments in his tiny Coral Gables apartment kitchen. He deconstructs his grandmother's ropa vieja recipe, understanding not just the ingredients but the cultural history behind each spice. He studies molecular gastronomy techniques online, practicing spherification and jellification until his fingers know the precise movements by muscle memory. He documents everything in detailed notebooks, creating a culinary philosophy that bridges tradition and innovation. Epictetus, who rose from slavery to philosophical greatness, understood this principle intimately. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Antonio's reaction transforms rejection from a verdict into fuel. Every no becomes evidence that he's pursuing something truly original, something that challenges conventional thinking. But here's the crucial insight. Antonio isn't doing this to prove the investors wrong. He's doing it to discover what he's truly capable of achieving. This shift in motivation, from external validation to internal excellence, changes everything. When you're no longer performing for an audience, you're free to pursue genuine mastery. 3 months into his silent revolution, Antonio's skills have evolved dramatically. His knife work is precise and fluid. His flavor combinations are bold yet balanced. His plating has become an art form that tells stories of Cuban heritage through visual beauty. He's not the same chef who walked into those investor meetings. He's become someone extraordinary. The transformation doesn't go unnoticed. His hotel's executive chef, impressed by Antonio's new level of creativity and precision, gives him more responsibility in menu development. Food bloggers begin mentioning the mysterious Cuban dishes appearing on the hotel's specials menu. A James Beard Award winner, dining at the hotel, asks specifically about the chef behind the innovative Mojo glazed grouper. Seneca wisely observed, "Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end." The end of Antonio's dependence on investor approval becomes the beginning of his journey toward culinary mastery. He's no longer trying to convince others of his worth. He's demonstrating it through undeniable excellence. But the real victory isn't external recognition, it's internal transformation. Antonio has developed what the Stoics called preferred indifference, things that are generally good but don't determine fundamental happiness. Recognition, awards, and investor interest are nice, but they're not the source of his fulfillment. His joy comes from the daily practice of excellence, the continuous improvement of his craft, the alignment of his actions with his deepest values. When the Food Network producer approaches him 6 months later, interested in featuring his story of innovation and perseverance, Antonio responds with quiet confidence rather than desperate gratitude. He's no longer the chef who needed others to validate his vision. He's become the chef whose vision speaks for itself. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." When investors chose conventional thinking over innovation, Antonio chose growth over resentment. When they chose safe bets over artistic vision, He chose mastery over mediocrity. His success isn't about proving them wrong. It's about proving to himself what becomes possible when rejection becomes the catalyst for relentless self-improvement. 7. Cultivating eudaimonia through joy. Rebecca Martinez sits in her cramped studio apartment in Portland's Pearl District, staring at the rejection letter from Oregon State University. After 7 years of dedicated teaching at Roosevelt High School, mentoring students through college applications, and developing an innovative curriculum that increased AP test scores by 40%, her application for tenure was denied. The committee's feedback was clinical and devastating. While Ms. Martinez shows dedication, we've decided to pursue candidates with more research experience. The familiar weight of rejection settles over her shoulders like a heavy blanket. Her instinct is to retreat, to spend the weekend in pajamas, scrolling through social media, comparing herself to colleagues who seem to effortlessly advance in their careers. But then she remembers something her philosophy professor once said about the ancient Greeks and their concept of eudaimonia, human flourishing through virtue and meaningful engagement with life. This is where most people get stuck after rejection. They withdraw from life precisely when they need to engage with it more fully. But the Stoics understood something profound about resilience. It's not built in isolation, but through active participation in the richness of human experience. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." Rebecca makes a conscious choice to shift her thoughts from "what's wrong with me" to "what's possible for me?" This isn't toxic positivity or denial of disappointment, it's strategic joy as a tool for building psychological resilience. Saturday morning, instead of wallowing, Rebecca drives to Powell's Books and loses herself in the travel section, dreaming of places she's always wanted to visit. She's not escaping reality, she's expanding it. She purchases a guidebook to Iceland and begins planning a summer adventure she's postponed for years while waiting for tenure security. The act of planning something exciting creates neural pathways of anticipation and hope that counteract the neural patterns of rejection and defeat. Aristotle, whose concept of eudaimonia deeply influenced Stoic philosophy, taught that human flourishing comes through the cultivation of virtues and meaningful relationships. Rebecca understands intuitively that her worth as an educator isn't diminished by one committee's decision. She texts her former students, many now in college, asking about their experiences and offering continued mentorship. Their enthusiastic responses remind her of the real impact she's had, an impact that no tenure committee can measure or diminish. Sunday afternoon, Rebecca joins a hiking group exploring the Columbia River Gorge. As she climbs the trail to Multnomah Falls, surrounded by strangers who quickly become friends, she feels something she hasn't experienced in months, pure joy unrelated to professional achievement. The endorphins from physical activity combine with the social connection and natural beauty to create what psychologists call flow state, complete absorption in the present moment. Seneca, who understood both political success and failure, wrote, "Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end." Rebecca's tenure rejection isn't just an ending, it's a beginning of a different kind of life, one less constrained by institutional expectations and more aligned with her authentic interests and values. This is the strategic aspect of cultivating joy after rejection. It's not about forgetting your disappointment, but about preventing that disappointment from defining your entire emotional landscape. When you deliberately seek out experiences that bring you alive, whether it's learning a new skill, exploring a new place, or connecting with inspiring people, you're building what resilience researchers call psychological capital. Tuesday evening, Rebecca attends a community meeting about educational equity in Portland's public schools. She volunteers to help develop after-school programs for underserved students. This isn't a consolation prize for her failed tenure bid, It's an expansion of her mission as an educator beyond the confines of traditional academia. She's discovered that rejection from one path can open up entirely new avenues for meaningful contribution. Epictetus, who transformed personal suffering into philosophical wisdom, taught, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Rebecca's reaction to tenure rejection, choosing adventure, community engagement, and service over bitterness and withdrawal, transforms her from a victim of institutional politics into an agent of positive change. The psychological shift is profound. When you respond to rejection by expanding your life rather than contracting it, you send a powerful message to your subconscious. I am bigger than this setback. My worth isn't determined by one institution's decision. My capacity for joy and contribution extends far beyond this narrow definition of success. 3 months later, Rebecca receives an unexpected call from Portland Community College, offering her a position developing innovative online curricula for adult learners. A role that values her creativity and teaching excellence while offering better work-life balance than traditional tenure-track positions. Her hiking adventures have led to a relationship with someone who shares her love of outdoor exploration. Her volunteer work has connected her with a network of educators and activists working on systemic change. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, confine yourself to the present. Rebecca's choice to find joy in the present moment, despite professional disappointment, created a foundation for a future far richer than her original plans. Her rejection became not a dead end, but a detour toward a more authentic and fulfilling path. 8. Building character through community. James Thompson stands in a bustling coffee shop in Austin, Texas, surrounded by the aroma of freshly brewed coffee and the hum of conversation. He's just received an email notifying him that his proposal for a citywide environmental initiative was not selected for funding. His innovative plan to promote urban gardening and local food sourcing was praised for its creativity, but ultimately rejected due to budget constraints. As he takes a sip of his Americano, frustration washes over him. How could the city overlook such a crucial step towards sustainability? But instead of retreating into disappointment, James recalls a fundamental principle of Stoic philosophy. The idea that true growth emerges not in isolation but through community engagement and shared purpose. In times of rejection, the Stoics emphasize the importance of connecting with others, drawing strength from relationships that uplift and inspire. Seneca wisely observed, "One of the most beautiful qualities of true friendship is to understand and to be understood." Rejection can feel isolating, but reaching out to your community can transform that isolation into solidarity. James decides to attend a local meeting of the Austin Sustainable Urban Coalition, a group he's been meaning to join but had hesitated due to his busy schedule. At the meeting, James meets others who share his passion for sustainability. They discuss local initiatives, share their own experiences with rejection, and brainstorm new ideas together. One member, a community organizer named Lisa, shares how her proposal for a neighborhood composting program was rejected last year. But through community collaboration, she found new partners and funding sources to bring it to life. Inspired by Lisa's story, James realizes that his rejection is not a reflection of his worth or the value of his ideas, but rather an invitation to collaborate with others who share his vision. He begins to see the rejection not as a closed door, but as an opportunity to expand his network and gather diverse perspectives that could strengthen his initiative. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, "When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. They are like this because they cannot tell good from evil. Understanding that others may not recognize the importance of your ideas can help cultivate compassion rather than resentment. As James continues to engage with the coalition, he learns about a grant opportunity specifically for community-led sustainability projects. He collaborates with Lisa and other members to refine his original proposal, incorporating their insights and ideas. This collaborative effort not only strengthens the initiative but also creates a sense of ownership and shared purpose among everyone involved. This is the power of community. When faced with rejection, reaching out and connecting with others can lead to unexpected support and collaboration. It transforms individual disappointment into collective action. As James immerses himself in this community, he finds renewed energy and motivation. The previously rejected proposal evolves into a more comprehensive project that addresses food insecurity, environmental education, and community engagement. Epictetus taught us, "It is not the things themselves that disturb us, but our opinions about them." James reframes his rejection as a stepping stone rather than a stumbling block. Instead of viewing the funding denial as a personal failure, he sees it as a catalyst for deeper connections and more impactful work. Over the next few months, the coalition hosts workshops, engages with local schools, and builds partnerships with local businesses interested in sustainable practices. James's project grows beyond what he initially envisioned, expanding into a citywide initiative that garners attention from local media and city officials. What started as a rejection now has the potential to transform the community's relationship with food and sustainability. The impact of this community engagement is multifaceted. James not only builds a successful project, but he also cultivates meaningful relationships with like-minded individuals who share his passion. He learns from their experiences, gains new perspectives, and develops a sense of belonging that enriches his life beyond professional achievement. Seneca also said, "If you wish to be rich, do not add to your money, but subtract from your desire." In this case, James finds richness not in the validation of his original proposal, but in the collective effort and shared accomplishments that arise from working with others. His desire for recognition is replaced by a desire to contribute, collaborate, and create a positive impact. As the project launches successfully, James realizes that the rejection he initially perceived as a setback has led him to something far greater. His commitment to community engagement has not only strengthened his initiative, but has also deepened his understanding of what it means to be a responsible and impactful member of society. In the end, the Stoic path teaches us that our character is built not only through personal achievements but also through our contributions to the collective good. The relationships we forge and the communities we nurture are essential to our growth and fulfillment. James's journey reflects the essence of Stoicism, using rejection as a catalyst for connection, collaboration, and meaningful action. 9. The strength of philosophical indifference. As the sun sets over the skyline of New York City, the vibrant lights of Times Square begin to flicker to life. Eleanor Hughes, a young playwright, sits at a small table in a crowded cafe, her heart heavy. She had just left a meeting with a theater production company where she pitched her latest script, an exploration of modern relationships through the lens of technology and human connection. The feedback was lukewarm, and the rejection felt like a punch to the gut. "It's interesting, but we're looking for something more mainstream." Sipping her coffee, Eleanor feels the familiar sting of disappointment wash over her. In a city where artistic validation can feel so fleeting, she grapples with the urge to seek approval from those who may not understand her vision. Yet, as a student of Stoic philosophy, she knows that the key to resilience lies in cultivating the strength of philosophical indifference. Epictetus reminds us, "It is not the things themselves that disturb us, but our opinions about them." The rejection isn't inherently damaging. It's how Eleanor perceives it that can either empower or disempower her. Instead of allowing the opinions of others to dictate her self-worth, she chooses to practice indifference to their judgment. Philosophical indifference doesn't mean being apathetic or disengaged. Rather, it's about maintaining emotional equilibrium in the face of external circumstances. Eleanor recognizes that her value as a playwright isn't contingent upon one company's approval. She reflects on Marcus Aurelius' teaching, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." With this knowledge in mind, Eleanor decides to channel her energy into her craft rather than dwelling on the rejection. She revisits her script, not with the intent of conforming to mainstream expectations, but to refine her voice and deepen her characters. She understands that true artistry often emerges from authenticity rather than pandering to market trends. This commitment to self-mastery allows her to remain grounded. Eleanor starts attending workshops and writing groups, seeking feedback from fellow playwrights who share her passion for innovative storytelling. The supportive environment fosters her growth and encourages her to experiment with new ideas without fear of judgment. As she immerses herself in these creative circles, she embodies the Stoic principle of focusing on what she can control: her writing, her creativity, and her commitment to her artistic vision. The opinions of a few industry gatekeepers become increasingly irrelevant to her self-perception. Instead, she finds strength in her community of fellow artists, learning from their journeys and sharing her own experiences. Seneca wisely stated, "A good character, when established, is a fortress." Eleanor begins to build her fortress of character around the indifference to external validation. Each rejection, instead of shaking her confidence, becomes a stepping stone toward honing her craft. She understands that the path of an artist is often fraught with rejection, but resilience and creativity flourish in the face of adversity. Months pass, and Eleanor's new script takes shape. She incorporates feedback from her writing group, deepens her characters' arcs, and infuses her unique perspective on modern relationships. With each draft, she feels more empowered and less reliant on others' approval. Then, as fate would have it, she receives an email from a different production company interested in her work. They've seen her previous projects and are eager to explore her latest script. This time, Eleanor walks into the meeting with a sense of confidence rooted in her artistic integrity rather than desperation for validation. Marcus Aurelius' words resonate within her. "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." The initial rejection became a catalyst for her growth, pushing her to delve deeper into her artistry and refine her unique voice. Eleanor presents her script with passion, articulating the themes and characters with clarity. This time, the response is enthusiastic. The production company appreciates her originality and offers to produce her play, embracing its exploration of technology and human connection in a world increasingly detached from authenticity. The success isn't merely a triumph over rejection. It's a testament to her commitment to remain indifferent to external judgments. Eleanor feels a profound sense of fulfillment, not because she finally gained recognition, but because she chose to stay true to her vision amidst the noise of industry expectations. The strength of philosophical indifference empowers individuals to pursue their passions without being swayed by the opinions of others. It allows one to navigate the unpredictable landscape of life with resilience and grace. As Eleanor reflects on her journey, she understands that each rejection was not a closing door, but a redirection toward a more authentic path. In the end, practicing philosophical indifference doesn't mean ignoring the importance of relationships or feedback. It means understanding that your self-worth is not tethered to the validation of others. The Stoics teach us that true strength lies in our ability to remain anchored in our values, regardless of external circumstances. Eleanor's journey illustrates that when we build our self-worth on a foundation of personal integrity and resilience, we become unshakable in the face of rejection. The opinions of others may come and go, but our commitment to our craft and our authentic selves remains constant. 10. The power of contemplative silence. The bustling streets of Seattle are alive with the chatter of commuters and the distant sound of seagulls circling the waterfront. Amidst this chaos, Claire Johnson sits on a park bench overlooking Puget Sound, her mind racing with thoughts of her recent breakup and the rejection she feels from both her partner and the universe. After months of relationship building, she finds herself alone, grappling with feelings of inadequacy and self-doubt. In this moment of solitude, Claire recalls the teachings of the Stoics, particularly the power of silence and introspection. Seneca once said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." Instead of allowing her mind to spiral into a frenzy of negative thoughts, Claire decides to practice the art of contemplative silence. Contemplative silence is not simply the absence of sound, it is a powerful tool for self-reflection and emotional mastery. It allows us to step back from our emotional responses and gain clarity on our thoughts and feelings. In times of rejection, it is easy to become overwhelmed by a whirlwind of emotions, but the Stoics teach us to embrace silence as a means of understanding ourselves better. Claire takes a deep breath, inhaling the salty air, and closes her eyes. She allows herself to feel the pain of rejection but doesn't let it consume her. Instead, she acknowledges it as a part of her experience, a moment in time that does not define her worth. As Marcus Aurelius reminds us, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. In this state of contemplative silence, Claire begins to ask herself important questions. What can I learn from this experience? How can I grow from this rejection? What do I truly value? Each question becomes a stepping stone towards self-discovery, allowing her to process her emotions without judgment. This practice of reflective silence creates space for profound insights. Claire realizes that her self-worth has been tied too closely to the approval of others and the success of her relationships. She understands that she needs to cultivate her own sense of value independent of external validation. This realization is transformative. It shifts her perspective from victimhood to empowerment. In the days that follow, Claire continues her practice of contemplative silence. She incorporates meditation into her morning routine, dedicating 10 minutes each day to sit quietly and observe her thoughts without attachment. This simple act becomes a refuge, a space where she can process her emotions and gain clarity on her desires and aspirations. As she embraces this silence, Claire also reflects on her passions outside of her relationship. She rekindles her love for painting, something she had set aside during the whirlwind of her romance. Each brushstroke on the canvas becomes a form of expression, a way to channel her emotions into something beautiful and meaningful. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus taught, "It is not the things themselves that disturb us, but our opinions about them." Claire learns to distinguish between her thoughts and her reality. The rejection she experienced is painful, but it does not define her identity. Instead of viewing herself as a failure, she sees this moment as an opportunity for growth and self-exploration. During a local art show, Claire exhibits her recent paintings, showcasing her journey through introspection and healing. As she stands among the vibrant colors of her artwork, she notices a shift in her perspective. The validation she once sought from relationships now comes from within. She feels a sense of pride in her work, regardless of how others perceive it. This newfound confidence attracts attention. A fellow artist approaches her, impressed by her unique style and emotional depth. They strike up a conversation, and Claire finds herself connecting with someone who shares her passion for art and creativity. The rejection she initially felt transforms into an unexpected opportunity for new friendships and collaborations. The practice of contemplative silence has not only allowed Claire to process her emotions, but it has also opened her up to new possibilities. As she embraces this practice, she embodies the Stoic principle of focusing on what she can control: her thoughts, her actions, and her creative expression. Seneca's wisdom rings true: a good character, when established, is a fortress. Through contemplative silence, Claire strengthens her character, building resilience against the storms of life. She realizes that her worth is inherent, not dependent on others' opinions or relationship status. As Claire continues her journey, she remains committed to her practice of silence and self-reflection. She understands that contemplative silence is not a one-time event but a lifelong practice. In moments of joy and sorrow, it serves as a grounding force, allowing her to navigate life's challenges with grace and wisdom. In the end, the power of contemplative silence becomes a cornerstone of Claire's resilience. It transforms her from a place of rejection to a path of self-discovery, creativity, and meaningful connections. By embracing her emotions without being consumed by them, she cultivates a sense of inner peace that empowers her to face whatever challenges lie ahead. 11. The Fortress of Self-Reliance. As the rain patters softly against the windows of his downtown Chicago apartment, Kevin Brooks sits at his kitchen table, staring blankly at his laptop. He's just received another rejection for a position he believed was tailor-made for him. After months of networking, polishing his resume, and preparing for interviews, the feedback from the tech startup was clear: "We appreciate your skills, but we're looking for someone with more experience in AI development." At that moment, Kevin feels a wave of frustration wash over him. His mind races with thoughts of inadequacy and self-doubt. Yet, buried beneath those feelings is a glimmer of understanding, the kind that comes from studying Stoic philosophy. Instead of succumbing to despair, Kevin recalls the words of Epictetus: "No man is free who is not master of himself." Self-reliance, as the Stoics understood, is not merely about independence, it's about cultivating a deep sense of personal responsibility for one's own happiness and success. Kevin realizes that the rejection, while disappointing, does not diminish his abilities or potential. Instead of allowing it to define him, he can choose to respond with resilience. Marcus Aurelius advised, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this and you will find strength. In this moment of reflection, Kevin chooses to invest his energy in self-improvement rather than fixate on the rejection. He begins to identify the skills he can enhance, the knowledge he can acquire, and the experiences he can gain, all of which will increase his marketability. Kevin decides to take a proactive approach. He enrolls in an online course focused on AI development, dedicating evenings to mastering the intricacies of machine learning algorithms. This is not simply a reaction to rejection, it is a commitment to himself, a promise to become the best version of himself, independent of external validation. The Stoics believed that true freedom comes from self-mastery, and Kevin is determined to build his fortress of self-reliance. He creates a structured plan for his personal and professional development, setting achievable goals for each week. He blocks out time in his calendar for study, practice projects, and even networking with professionals in the AI field to expand his connections. He begins attending local meetups focused on technology and innovation, where he creates meaningful connections with like-minded individuals who share his passion. In these gatherings, Kevin finds not only support but inspiration. He engages in discussions about the future of AI and starts to see the broader picture of how he can fit into this rapidly evolving landscape. Seneca wisely noted, "A good character, when established, is a fortress." Kevin realizes that building his character through self-reliance does not mean isolating himself from others. Rather, it means surrounding himself with individuals who encourage growth and challenge him to strive for excellence. As he immerses himself in his studies and community, Kevin begins to feel a shift in his mindset. The previous rejection no longer looms over him like a shadow. Instead, it serves as a catalyst for his development. He has transformed the pain of rejection into motivation, fueling his drive to learn and grow. Over the following months, Kevin's skills in AI begin to flourish. He completes several projects that showcase his newfound knowledge, building a portfolio that reflects his capabilities and creativity. He starts a blog to document his journey, sharing insights and lessons learned along the way. This act of sharing not only reinforces his learning but also positions him as a thought leader in the field. As he gains confidence, Kevin applies for positions once again. This time, he feels equipped with the tools and knowledge necessary to succeed. When he receives a call for an interview from a prominent tech company, he approaches it with excitement rather than anxiety. He understands that whether he gets the job or not, he has already succeeded in his personal journey of growth. During the interview, Kevin speaks passionately about his projects, drawing connections between his experiences and the company's goals. When he receives an offer 2 days later, it feels like a validation of his efforts, but more importantly, it represents the culmination of his commitment to self-mastery and resilience. The Stoic philosophy teaches that true freedom and self-reliance come from focusing on what you can control: your thoughts, your responses, and your actions. Kevin's journey exemplifies this principle beautifully. He learns that rejection is merely a part of the process, not an endpoint, and that self-worth is built through continuous growth and learning. In the end, the fortress of self-reliance he builds becomes a source of strength, enabling him to navigate the uncertainties of life with grace. As he reflects on his journey, Kevin understands that the real victory lies not in the job offer itself, but in the transformation he underwent through the process. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." By choosing to focus on his growth rather than his setbacks, Kevin cultivates a mindset that not only embraces challenge but thrives in it. The rejection that once felt like a barrier becomes a stepping stone toward a future filled with possibilities. 12. Compassionate detachment. The sun casts a warm glow over the San Francisco Bay as Angela Park sits on a bench in Golden Gate Park, watching the sailboats glide across the water. The tranquility of the scene contrasts sharply with the turmoil in her heart. After months of dating someone she thought was special, she received a text message that felt like a dagger. "I think we should just be friends. I don't feel a connection anymore." The rejection stings, leaving her questioning her worth and feeling vulnerable. In moments like these, many people react with a desire to cling to the relationship, to seek answers, or to convince the other person to reconsider. However, Angela reflects on the wisdom of Stoic philosophy. particularly the idea of compassionate detachment. This principle teaches that while we can care deeply for others, we must also recognize the importance of maintaining our emotional balance and integrity. Seneca once said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." Angela knows that dwelling on the breakup will only amplify her suffering. Instead of allowing this rejection to spiral into self-doubt and desperation, she chooses to practice compassionate detachment. This involves acknowledging her feelings without letting them define her. Compassionate detachment is not about shutting down emotionally or becoming indifferent. Rather, it's about creating a healthy distance from the emotional turmoil while still being kind to oneself and others. Angela takes a deep breath and allows herself to feel the sadness, anger, and disappointment that comes with rejection. She doesn't suppress these emotions. Instead, she observes them, reminding herself that it's okay to feel hurt. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, wrote, "You have the power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This moment of reflection allows Angela to reclaim her power. She understands that her self-worth is not contingent upon someone else's feelings or decisions. Instead of seeking validation from her ex-partner, she decides to focus on cultivating her own sense of self-love and acceptance. To facilitate this, Angela immerses herself in self-care. She signs up for a pottery class she had always wanted to try, using the creative outlet to express her emotions. The act of molding clay becomes therapeutic, helping her channel her feelings into something tangible. Each piece she creates reflects her journey through heartache and healing, showcasing her resilience and creativity. Angela also engages in mindfulness meditation, dedicating time each day to sit quietly and observe her thoughts without judgment. This practice helps her cultivate awareness and perspective, allowing her to detach from the emotional weight of the breakup. Over time, she learns to observe her thoughts as passing clouds rather than permanent fixtures in her mind. In her new pottery class, she meets people from various backgrounds, each with their own stories and experiences of love and loss. This connection fosters a sense of community and support that further aids her healing. Angela realizes that compassionate detachment doesn't mean shutting herself off from others. Rather, it opens the door to new relationships and experiences that enrich her life. Seneca wisely noted, "A good character, when established, is a fortress." By practicing compassionate detachment, Angela builds her fortress of self-worth, fortified against the storms of rejection. She learns that her value is inherent and not contingent on the approval or affection of others. As she continues to focus on self-improvement and self-discovery, Angela begins to redefine her identity outside of romantic relationships. She explores new hobbies, engages in volunteer work, and rekindles friendships that had taken a back seat during her previous relationship. This journey of self-exploration allows her to cultivate a deeper understanding of herself and her passions. Months later, as Angela stands in the gallery showcasing her pottery, she reflects on how far she has come. The rejection that once felt like a crushing blow has transformed into a powerful lesson in self-love and resilience. The supportive relationships she has built during her healing process have enriched her life in ways she never anticipated. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." By choosing to practice compassionate detachment, Angela has cultivated a mindset that embraces growth and healing. She understands that her worth is not diminished by someone else's inability to see her value. In the end, the practice of compassionate detachment empowers individuals to navigate the complexities of relationships with grace and wisdom. It teaches that while love and connection are vital, our self-worth must come from within. As Angela continues her journey, she remains committed to nurturing herself, knowing that true fulfillment comes from embracing her authentic self and allowing her light to shine brightly. The Stoic path encourages us to find strength in vulnerability and to cultivate resilience through self-compassion. By practicing compassionate detachment, we can embrace life's challenges without losing sight of our worth, ultimately leading us to deeper connections and a more fulfilling life. 13. The Discipline of Inner Fortitude. In the heart of Denver, Colorado, under the shadow of the Rocky Mountains, Maria Reyes stands at the edge of a bustling street market, her heart racing with anticipation. After months of pitching her health and wellness startup to investors, she finally secured a meeting with a well-known venture capital firm. But as her pitch unfolds, she senses the room's dismissive energy. Despite her passion and thorough research, the feedback is swift and harsh. "We don't see the market potential here. This isn't for us." Walking away from the meeting, Maria feels the sting of rejection cut deep. It's easy to crumble under the weight of such criticism, especially when you've invested so much time and energy into your vision. Yet, as a student of Stoicism, Maria understands that this moment is not the end, it is an opportunity to build her inner fortitude. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The things you think about determine the quality of your mind. Your soul takes on the color of your thoughts." Maria knows that she has the power to choose how to respond to this setback. Instead of allowing the rejection to define her, she decides to cultivate resilience and strength. The first step in this process is acceptance. Maria acknowledges her disappointment but refuses to let it consume her. She recalls the teachings of Epictetus, who stated, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." With this in mind, Maria begins to question her internal narrative. Is this rejection a reflection of her abilities or merely a moment in time? Through journaling, Maria processes her emotions. She writes about her fears and insecurities, but she also lists her strengths and accomplishments. This act of self-reflection helps her regain perspective. She realizes that successful entrepreneurs often face numerous rejections before achieving their goals. It's not the rejection that matters, but the perseverance to keep moving forward. Next, Maria turns her attention to her network. She reaches out to mentors and fellow entrepreneurs seeking advice and support. In conversations with others who have faced similar challenges, she discovers that rejection is a universal experience in the entrepreneurial journey. One mentor shares how they were turned down by dozens of investors before finally landing the perfect partner. This reassurance reinforces Maria's resolve to continue pursuing her vision. The Stoics emphasized the importance of community and relationships in building resilience. As Seneca noted, friendship improves happiness and abates misery by the doubling of our joy and the dividing of our grief. Maria's decision to lean on her network becomes a crucial part of her recovery process. She attends local startup meetups and workshops, immersing herself in the entrepreneurial community that fosters innovation and support. As Maria delves deeper into her project, she decides to pivot her approach based on the feedback she received. Instead of solely focusing on wellness products, she begins to explore the broader implications of health and technology, considering how her startup can address the growing demand for mental wellness solutions. This pivot allows her to see rejection not as a dead end but as a redirection toward a more viable market. In the face of adversity, Maria embodies the Stoic principle of inner fortitude, the discipline to remain steadfast in her purpose. She understands that true strength lies not only in resilience but also in adaptability. She begins to develop a revised business plan, one that incorporates the insights gained from her recent experiences. As she works on her new pitch, Maria practices presenting in front of friends and family, refining her delivery and honing her message. This preparation builds her confidence and equips her with the tools necessary to face future challenges. She recognizes that rejection can provide invaluable feedback and an opportunity for growth. Months later, Maria stands in front of a new group of investors, her heart pounding but her mind clear. She delivers her pitch with passion, articulating her vision for a health and wellness platform that integrates technology and mental well-being. The investors nod, intrigued by her innovative approach and the depth of her research. When they express interest in moving forward, Maria feels a surge of gratitude. Throughout this journey, Maria has learned that the discipline of inner fortitude is not just about weathering the storm of rejection, it's about cultivating the strength to rise, adapt, and thrive in the face of challenges. The Stoics taught that our reactions define us, and by choosing resilience and determination, Maria transforms her experience into a powerful testament to her character. As Marcus Aurelius wisely reminds us, the best revenge is not to be like your enemy. Instead of allowing rejection to overshadow her ambitions, Maria has become a force of change, embodying the very principles she studied. The journey toward inner fortitude has not only equipped her to face rejection with grace, but has also empowered her to pursue her dreams with renewed vigor. In the end, the discipline of inner fortitude serves as a guiding principle for all who face rejection. By embracing the lessons learned from setbacks and committing to personal growth, we cultivate the strength necessary to navigate life's challenges, ultimately leading us to a more resilient and fulfilled existence. As we conclude this exploration of Stoic principles and the transformative power of rejection, let's take a moment to reflect on the journey we've undertaken together. From the initial sting of rejection to the strength found in dignified withdrawal, mastering emotional responses, and cultivating resilience, each lesson offers a powerful tool for navigating the complexities of modern life. Rejection is not merely a setback, it is an opportunity for growth, a chance to refine our character and pursue our passions with renewed vigor. The Stoics taught us that our reactions to adversity define who we are. As Marcus Aurelius wisely stated, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. This means that every obstacle we encounter can serve as a stepping stone toward our true purpose. Throughout this journey, we've seen how individuals like Sarah, Marcus, Elena, and others have transformed their experiences of rejection into powerful narratives of resilience and self-discovery. They embody the Stoic ideals of self-reliance, compassionate detachment, and inner fortitude. By choosing to focus on what they can control, their thoughts, actions, and responses, they have turned moments of pain into pathways for personal growth. Now, as you reflect on your own experiences with rejection, I encourage you to embrace these Stoic lessons. Consider how you can apply them in your life. Whether you're facing professional setbacks, personal disappointments, or social exclusion, remember that these challenges are not the end. They are invitations to deepen your understanding of yourself and your potential. Start by practicing the art of dignified withdrawal. When faced with indifference, choose to focus on your own growth and happiness. Engage in activities that enrich your life and surround yourself with people who uplift and inspire you. Allow the experience of rejection to propel you forward rather than hold you back. Master your emotional responses through the discipline of assent. Recognize that your self-worth is not tied to external validation. Instead, cultivate a strong sense of identity grounded in your values and passions. Embrace the power of silence and introspection, using contemplative practices to gain clarity and insight into your journey. Finally, build your fortress of self-reliance. Invest in your personal and professional development and seek out opportunities that align with your vision. Remember, the path to success is often paved with setbacks, but it is your commitment to resilience and growth that will ultimately define your journey. As you move forward, I invite you to share your stories of triumph and transformation. Subscribe to the Stoic Viva channel to stay connected and continue exploring the practical applications of Stoic philosophy in your daily life. Like and share this content with friends and family who may benefit from these insights. Together, we can cultivate a community dedicated to mastering the art of resilience and embracing every challenge as an opportunity for growth. Thank you for joining us on this journey through Stoic wisdom. Remember, rejection is not the end, it is the beginning of something greater. Take these lessons to heart and may you find strength and inspiration in the face of adversity. Stay stoic.